This is my full review of the new Lovestruck Expansion Pack for The Sims 4. I was offered an opportunity to play with this pack super early thanks to the EA Creator Network, but it worked a little bit differently this time compared to past packs. They wouldn't let people participate in this early access unless they agreed to be paid $100 for a sponsored gallery post. I really did not want to be paid anything related to a new expansion pack because I feel like a lot of people already think that EA is like paying me to say nice things about their game and I'm being paid off. So I think any sort of money exchange really harms my credibility in people's eyes, and I was really frustrated about it. Like, tears were shed over this. It sounds dramatic, but for years in these videos I've been saying I'm not being paid, they just sent me the pack early, and now you're forcing me to accept this honestly insulting offer of money and then have to disclose that I'm being sponsored in every single video in early access. So I'm gonna make 10 plus videos with this pack and have to say I'm sponsored every single time because of that $100. I even had a call with them about it, but I didn't want to cause too much of a fuss and be like the problem person who forced them to work around me specifically. And maybe that was a mistake because I learned later that I think a couple of people did do that and had them find a workaround so they didn't have to get paid. But I had to make this decision when I was still in Chicago in the hospital with my grandma, and long story short, there has been a lot of heartache surrounding this pack, no pun intended, and I have been extremely stressed about this whole thing. So I was paid $100 and I'm getting a $40 game code for free. It would take a lot more than that to buy my opinion, and I would literally never lie to you about this kind of thing. So hopefully you understand that I'm always gonna be brutally honest in these reviews. I'm not some supervillain trying to trick people into spending a ton of money on a Sims game. I have nothing to gain from lying to you. I have no reason to not tell you the truth. And next week, I'm organizing a big charity event called Simmers for Palestine, and the goal is to raise as much money as possible as a community for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. We're trying to get a ton of Simmers involved, and I've already donated $6,000 to this campaign when I started it back in January, and I'll be donating another $5,000 next weekend, so we can just say that $100 EA payment is a part of that. Okay, let's talk about Lovestruck though. I have probably played around 40 hours of this pack in the past couple of weeks, and I want to walk you through everything in this video. We'll go through all the new stuff. I'll let you know what I think is good, what's bad, and also whether or not I think this pack is worth buying. Before we get started, I feel like it's probably worth noting that this pack is by far the most adult pack The Sims 4 has ever made. Of course, it's still rated T for teen, but there are a lot of sexual innuendos in this pack. Just as an example, if you try to woohoo in the new eggplant costume, the interaction is called show eggplant. So I found it really fun and silly, but I know that kind of stuff does make some people uncomfortable. And also, this maybe isn't the best pack for you to buy for your child. I just want to make sure you know what you're getting into. It's not bad, it's not like some sexual pack, but there are some innuendos. She's gonna do it now. This is, oh! Oh my god! All right, with those disclaimers out of the way, let's dive in. And actually, speaking of diving in, there's a pretty big base game update coming out alongside this pack, and it comes with round pools. I won't touch too much on the base game stuff in this video though, because I want to focus more on what you're paying for. So at its core, this is a romance pack. It actually feels very similar to Growing Together, but instead of focusing on family relationships, it's focusing on romantic ones. And this is done through a new attraction system with turn-ons and turn-offs, a new romance dynamic feature which defines how the Sims autonomously interact, a new feature called romantic satisfaction, and also updates to how the romance levels work, a new romance skill, and a complete overhaul of the date system. It's actually a little bit overwhelming with how many new things there are to keep track of and how many factors are at play in romance now. We'll talk about attraction first because I have been wanting an attraction system in this game for years. It works just like the likes and dislikes, and you even set them the same way in CAS. There's a few different categories. The way of life category is your attraction to different skills and lifestyles. So maybe you're attracted to married Sims or career-minded Sims that are level 7 or higher in their career. You might be unattracted to broke Sims. It's all just based around lifestyle stuff. The characteristics category has to do with traits. So if you're attracted to messy Sims, you like slobs, but if you're unattracted to funny Sims, you might not be so into people with the goofball trait. Again, it's really similar to likes and dislikes, but this affects romantic attraction. There's also a romance styles category, which changes how your Sim prefers to interact with others romantically. So you can make them dislike woohoo or maybe really love gift giving. This kind of reminds me a little bit of love languages in real life, but just oversimplified for The Sims. And this is what's tied to that new romantic satisfaction level that we'll talk about in a minute. So those are all turn-ons that your Sim kind of has to get to know somebody to figure out, but there's also physical turn-ons that affect their instant attraction level. So when you first meet a Sim, you might have an attraction, but that could change once you learn more about them. You might like their brown hair, but oops, turns out they're evil, you know? And with this, you can choose what hair colors, outfit colors, and fashion styles your Sim's attracted to. I kind of like this because on a surface level, you might be like, ooh, Eliza Pancakes looks really good in those purple flip-flops. And then you start talking to her and you realize, oh, it's Eliza Pancakes, never mind. I think it's a pretty good system, and there are so many categories now for likes and dislikes that you can really tell a detailed story about who your sim is and what they're interested in. It also makes for a way more interesting experience interacting with other sims because there are so many factors at play. There's just a lot to learn about people now with who they are and what they like to talk about. And you can still date someone if you're not attracted to them. It just takes a little bit of extra work to get that romance bar up, which makes sense. If you find someone attractive, it's gonna be a little bit easier in the beginning, but you can still work through that. It's pretty easy to see attraction levels in game because a little magnet icon pops up next to their face in the relationship panel. You can also ask other sims about their attraction to you, and you can tell them your attraction level. And there's some kind of funny pop-ups for this. They might even flat out tell you, listen, I am very unattracted to you. Or if you don't like someone and you tell them that, they'll be like, okay, why are you telling me this? Like, do I need to know that? So I enjoyed all of the interactions and the pop-ups from this pack a lot. Now, once you actually get a relationship started, that's where the romance dynamics kind of come into play. And if you're familiar with Growing Together, romantic dynamics work the exact same as family dynamics. It's just about romance instead. So you can choose to set these in cast, or they can pop up in game based on the kind of interactions you're having. So as an example, if you're woohooing a lot, you might get a pop-up being like, hey, things are getting a little steamy in here. Would you say it's a steamy dynamic? And you can say yes or no. There's 4 total. There's steamy, strained, wholesome, and unpredictable. And your sims will behave accordingly depending on what dynamic they have set. This kind of helps to affect autonomous interactions. So if 2 sims have a steamy dynamic, they might be kissing more often. Sims in a strained relationship might argue more. Unpredictable sims are kind of hot and cold, so they might argue, but they also might kiss. I like anything that can help change autonomy. So being able to set details like that and have it actually affect sim behavior is really cool to me. I will say that I don't really use this stuff from Growing Together very often, so I don't know how much I'll be using the romantic ones in the future. With Growing Together, I get pop-ups all the time about my sims having a jokesters dynamic, and I usually just say yes to it, but it's rare that I'll use the other ones like close or strict. It's not that I don't like it, I think I just mostly don't want my sims to have bad labels that could affect them negatively. It is good for storytelling, but it's not what I need in every single save. So I am curious to see long-term how this affects my relationships and if I end up using it. I'm also curious to see how it interacts with Growing Together because right now I don't know. We only had the base game and the new pack, so I haven't been able to test any cross-pack compatibility yet. One of the other major new features is the new romantic satisfaction level. So once you start romancing another sim and the pink bar gets like a quarter of the way through, you'll get a pop-up about romantic satisfaction starting, and you'll have to work to keep this up by doing romantic interactions that the other sim likes. So if they like gift giving, you'll probably want to make sure to give them gifts, but if they don't like flirting, you should probably avoid doing that. They basically tried to make romantic relationships more complex, and this is cool because it does make it harder to maintain relationships long term. So it actually keeps things interesting by forcing you to keep up with these interactions. I'm definitely guilty of not prioritizing romantic interactions once my sims have been married for a long time or if they have kids. I kind of get distracted and don't really focus on that too much. So I like having something to keep an eye on with it, and I also like how they can have different satisfaction levels. One sim might be perfectly happy, but the other one might feel a little bit neglected, so I like the balance of trying to figure it out. It's also a little bit harder now to build relationships between certain sims if they're not really clicking, but in some ways it's even easier for other sims if they happen to hit it off really well. I do find all of this stuff together to be a little bit overwhelming at times. It's like information overload when you're talking to new sims now, because you could ask another person about their romantic attraction and they'll give you a wall of text and list every single one of their turn-ons and turn-offs. And I'll be honest, I don't always want to read all that. On one hand, it's really cool to have all that detail, but on the other hand, there's like 50 things at play. We've got sexual orientation, we've got the new jealousy settings, we have all of the attraction levels, and now we have romantic satisfaction and dynamics, and there's just so many settings and labels. And I think that that might be a little bit intimidating to new players. There's a lot of people, myself included, who are really gonna like that level of detail, but I can also see how somebody might pick up the game for the first time and be like, whoa, where do I even start? How does this all work? But also I think this pack is probably more targeted to like long-time Sims players. Like this maybe wouldn't be the first pack that you buy for The Sims 4. I also probably wouldn't recommend it as your first and only pack for The Sims 4, but we'll get into that later. I also think that this pack kind of suffers from a lot of the major new features kind of being background features features. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you look at a pack like Horse Ranch, for example, there's a big giant horse staring right at you and all of the new gameplay is really obvious. But with this pack, the gameplay is tied to something that already exists and it's tied to deepening that and making it more interesting and better. So I don't really think this is a small pack, but because a lot of it is in the details, I think on first glance, it might not seem as big as some of the other ones. I hope that makes sense. So those are kind of like the key features, major themes, but there are a bunch of other new gameplay things in this pack. One big one is the new 10 level romance skill. I was really worried it was going to be just 5 levels because they tend to do mini skills sometimes. So I was really pleased to see it was a full skill. This one is kind of like charisma, except it's for romantic interactions. So you build the skill by doing romantic stuff, and as you level up, you unlock some cool new interactions. It's not super hard to build this skill, especially if you're romantically involved with someone. Most of my Sims got to around level 7 or level 8 without me even really trying. And the other big thing, and probably my favorite part of the pack, is the new date system. So they completely overhauled how dates work with this pack. There's a whole new create a date system. And with this, you select the type of date, you choose what activities you want to do, and then pick where it'll be. You can have a get to know you date, a romantic date, or a romantic repair date. And there's a huge list of activities to choose from, so you can completely customize what happens on these dates. You know how social events have that little pop-up with like a list of things to do and you have to finish it to get a gold medal? The activities that you select determine what kinds of interactions pop up in that little list. So you could make like a Netflix and chill date and have them watch movies and woohoo. You could just do a friendly fishing session at the park and have them joke around and go fishing. The options are literally endless with this, and you can even make a friendly hangout with anybody. It doesn't have to be a romantic date. There's a whole new friend hangout button that works the same way, it's just not for romance. You can also bring other Sims with you now, so you pick one main Sim as the other date partner, but then you can add others to the group. So you could do like a double date or go on a group hangout. In the trailer, they had him bringing his mom to the date. So there's just a lot of options to customize this in whatever way you want to tell whatever story you want. And I feel like this is such a huge improvement from the standard date system. Normally, you don't get any say in what kinds of interactions you have to do on those dates. So you end up being forced to flirt and then have deep conversations and then tell a funny story over and over and over again. But with this, you can get a lot more variety, and again, it's completely customizable. And if you don't want to do this, you can still just go on a normal date. They didn't override the date system, they added a new kind of date. So you can just ask on date like normal and it'll do the same standard base game thing if that's what you want. And that's one of my biggest gripes with wedding stories. With that, it turns off the normal weddings so you can't have them anymore. And that's a huge problem because the weddings are super buggy in wedding stories. But with this, if you don't feel like customizing anything, you don't have to. And it's also not buggy like wedding stories is, so it's really good. I feel like it's kind of similar to the holiday creation from Seasons and the wedding customization from Wedding Stories, just with the best parts picked out and turned into a date system. This is by far the best part of the pack to me. They've added a lot of autonomy to other Sims with this too. If you're being kind of flirty with someone at a bar, for example, they might pause and be like, hey, do you want to turn this into a date? And it'll give you the option to create a date right there. And if things are going really bad during a date, the other Sim might just leave and end the date. But if things are going really well, they might ask to extend the date and add some extra time to the clock. And you can do all those things too. You could fake an emergency phone call and get out of a date early. You can even ask to move locations and switch lots while continuing the date. So you could start at the bar and then ask someone if they want to come home with you and the date keeps going. Or maybe you start at the park and then decide to move to the nightclub once the sun sets. So you can see there's a lot of variety in how you might use this. I know I'm going on and on about it, but I really enjoyed this part of the pack. There's also a new option for blind dates. And this has you create a date in the same way. You just don't know who it's gonna be with. I love this. I think it's so fun to go on a date with a stranger. And this is kind of tied to the new online dating app, which is our final major feature. It's called Cupid's Corner, and it's an app that you can access from your phone or from your computer. And when you first open it, it gives you some options to set up your profile. And you can change any of this at any time. This sexual orientation at the top is based on your settings in cast. So to change that, you'd have to go into Create a Sim. But the rest of this you can update from right here. You can easily take new photos, and it has you take, oh my God. It has you take a selfie, and you can kind of change the pose. Not so ideal if you're talking to someone because their head's blocking you. And sometimes it doesn't turn out so well. It might be blurry, and they might have their thumb in the way. It's tied to the photography skills, so they might be kind of bad at it at first. And then you can choose what type of Sim you're looking for. So maybe you're not interested in elders. And then you pick 2 traits to display. And these are from any of the traits your Sim has, even if they have reward traits. So maybe maybe you've purchased the steel bladder trait. You could choose to use that as one of your 2 on Cupid's Corner. So you can't outright lie about anything on Cupid's Corner, but you could lie by omission. Like maybe don't say that you're evil on there. So there's not really a catfishing system in this game, and Cupid's Corner is also focused a lot more on traits than on physical stuff. I think I like that. It made me genuinely uncomfortable in The Sims 3 with the body type attraction. So I think the way they've done it here in The Sims 4 is a lot more sensitive and respectful. And if you want to base it off physical attraction, there is a picture. So it's kind of up to the player how they want to use it. The pictures are kind of hilarious. A lot of people have fish in them. Of course, nobody here does. But everybody's got silly poses and different backgrounds. It says their age. It says if they live in the same neighborhood as you, and it also has 2 of their traits listed. And you can choose to refresh these matches once every 12 hours. It'll highlight traits that you're attracted to make it really easy for the player to know if it's a sim that you might get along with. Emphasis on might, because they might like one of their traits, but you don't really know what else is going on with that sim yet. You can favorite people on here, and then when you look at your favorites tab, you can choose to add them to your contacts to get them in your relationship panel, or you can go on a date straight from the app. Apparently, it can pull sims from both the world and the gallery, and that's a setting that you can change. So if you're not comfortable with that, you can turn it off, and you can also make it only use sims that you favorited on the gallery, so you can have a little bit more control. I haven't been able to test that because this version of the game they gave me has the gallery disabled, so we'll have to wait and see once the pack is actually out how it works. I think we've touched on all of the major gameplay themes now, and there are a few other things that we'll get into later, don't worry. But I want to start showing you around a little bit more. So the new world is called Ciudad Enamorada, and this one's a little bit inspired by Mexico. There are 3 neighborhoods and 13 lots total. The first is called Nuevo Corazon, and this is like the downtown city center. There's 4 lots in this neighborhood. There's a nightclub, there's a gym, and then there's 2 penthouses. Down here we have Plaza Mariposa, and this is kind of like the Central Park section. There's 4 lots down here. One's the park, one is empty, one of the townies lives here, and then we also have a vacation rental. The downtown section is actually quite small because all the lots are very close together, but this park section's a little bit bigger. You can kind of see from the map, there's a lot of fake park happening. The lot itself is only 30 by 30, but there's a lot of park in the environment with some pathways and things around it. And then over here we have Vista Hermosa, and this is kind of like the suburbs. There's another empty lot up here. We also have a lounge. The 3rd Townie family lives here, and then we also have the only starter home and one slightly more expensive house. They worked with 3 Sims creators to build these lots. Their names are Frito Sorio, Shiki, and also Rustic Sims, and I'm gonna link their content down below in case you want to go and check them out. I was a little bit sad to see that there are only 3 pre-made households in this world. I think I would have liked to see at least 1 more, but real quick, I'll introduce you to all of the new townies. So first, in this fancy penthouse, we've got the Nadir family, and Aziz and Valentina used to run a flower shop together back in a small town, but it was always her dream to move to the city. She's a pretty high-profile matchmaker, and she wanted to live in the city to work on her career. Her husband wasn't so set on this dream, so they moved here together, and she is really happy and thriving, but he maybe is not so much. The story here is kind of that she's so preoccupied with herself and with her work that maybe she's not prioritizing her relationship. So these 2 have got an unpredictable dynamic, and Aziz is very attracted to her, but he's feeling unsatisfied in his relationship. Meanwhile, Valentina's got a neutral attraction to him, and she also is a bit unsatisfied. He's a freelance writer, and like I mentioned, she's really high. She's level 8 in that matchmaker career. Oh, they just started fighting. Oh my god. Talk about unpredictable. Yikes. Guys, we're filming. At least be nice for the cameras. The next household over here by the park are the dynamic daters, and this is meant to be a household of unexpected roommates. They even say, how did these 4 very different Sims end up living together? It's all for the plot, okay? So Carmen is a retired CEO who's moved here with these roommates after her wife passed away. It started with just her and this Sim, Alaya, and then they kind of met the other Sims and all sort of formed a group and decided to live together. And I was pleased to know that they, whoa. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I was pleased to know they actually set up relationships between these 2 Sims. So Carmen and Alaya are best friends. They've got sentiments together. Carmen's retired, but Alaya is in the chef career, and they're actually a celebrity chef, level 10. Manuel here is an entertainer, and then Joltik is a dedicated dresser in the fashion designer career. For some reason, he does not have any skills that he needs for work, but he does have skills set up. This is actually a good example of all of the things that you can see in the relationship panel now. So we've got all of their preferences, like likes and dislikes, and now turn-ons and turn-offs. But we can also see their relationship preferences. So it shows their romantic and also woohoo interests. It shows if they're open to exploration. It shows their jealousy triggers. It shows their romantic boundaries. I think that they need to find a better way to do this, because they just put everything in this sim tab. And when you have all the packs, it scrolls on forever. There's so much going on in that section. I feel like there has to be a better way, or at least like maybe another tab or something, because there's a lot of info there now. And the last household is the Lopez family, and this is drama. So basically, Monica's ex-husband ditched them to go become a gnome artist, and poor Monica thought she would never find love again, so she kind of just poured herself into taking care of her children. But now her kids are getting older, they're grown up, and she's kind of starting to get worried about the empty nest. So she decides it's time to rediscover her romantic side, and she ends up falling for this guy called Manuel. You saw him a second ago. The only problem is he attended high school with her son. So yikes. They're grown, like they're young adults now, but it is a little bit uncomfortable because they have this steamy relationship happening and he's like high school friends with her son. Meanwhile, Carlos hates that, hates him, like stay away from my mom please. And their poor teenage sibling is like caught in the middle of all of this. I was very excited to see that there are 2 non-binary sims in this world. Both this sim and Alaya from the Roomies household use they them pronouns. So I love the townies, even if I wish there was maybe one more household. But I have some kind of conflicting opinions about this new world. And that's not to do with the builds or anything. I actually think that the nightclub and the new gym are 2 of the best community lots we've ever gotten. I adore the builds in this world. It has more to do with the layout of the world and the types of lots we got. And maybe this is my own fault for getting my hopes up. I really hyped it up in my mind because I really thought we'd be getting apartments in this world. So I was so disappointed when I learned there weren't any. There is this little city-like neighborhood, so I guess if you have for rent, you could build your own apartments up here, but the other 2 lots are penthouses instead of apartments, and I just don't really care about penthouses. I never use them in city living, and honestly, I'll probably very rarely use them here. I guess it's cool to finally have more, but I think I would have rather they just give us normal flat lots instead. Penthouses are really annoying because if you move too close to the edge, the camera falls, and I find it really frustrating to play on these lots because of all of the camera movement like this. Like, I'm not the one syncing the camera. And also, if you invite sims over, they're supposed to spawn by the elevator, but sometimes they're just standing at the bottom on the floor, and I just find penthouses really bothersome to play on. So I don't know, it's cool because it does make it feel more like a city, but I just don't care for penthouses, hence the conflicting feelings. And the other major problem is that for some reason, a lot of the lots are not touching the edge. I don't understand this. I will never understand why they keep doing this. I just want the lots to touch the sidewalk. There's a sidewalk right there. Why does the lot not touch it? This is one of those empty lots, so it's kind of an example of what I mean. Why is there this gap right here? I just want the lot to be up against the edge. I don't care if this side's not touching because it's angled, but the front of the lot needs to touch the edge. Everyone complains about this every time they do it, and yet they keep doing it. It's so weird to build on because you're gonna want to make the house and then have a sidewalk up to the front door, and then there's just a gap because the lot just stops. And multiple of the lots are like this, and I just hate that they do that. I think it's so weird to have these grass gaps that I can't control. When I first saw this, I wanted to scream. I was like going through touring all the lots being like, oh, this one's so cool. Wait, go to the next one. Oh, it's so pretty. Wait a minute. This vacation rental has that problem too. And I think it's because they tried to build like a custom fake wall around it or something. But then you have this beautiful lot and there's a massive gap of grass in between the front of the lot and the sidewalk. Literally all I want is for it to line up with the edge. I love the environment stuff you did. It's really pretty, but I just want the lot to line up with the edge. You can even see the person who built this had to make that weird little dirt nub to pretend that it's like some sort of entry because it doesn't line up. I don't get it. Again, being dramatic, but like that's enough to make me not want to build here. It's usually okay when they do that in more rural looking areas, think like Henford on Bagley. But when there's a sidewalk right there and you're not using it, it frustrates me so much. You know how I rant and rave about hating Del Sol Valley? That's because one of the lots is the same as this. And also the builds are ugly in Del Sol Valley, but that's different. So I do love this world. I think the neighborhoods are like the perfect size. They've done a few worlds recently that felt really empty, but I think these are a good compromise between being big, but not being so big and so spread out that it feels feels awkward and empty. It's almost laughable to compare the fake city from this pack to the fake city section from San Sequoia. This one is just so much better in that way. And maybe most people don't care about the lot spacing like I do. That might be a me problem. I think I'll move into cast for a second though, so we can talk about all the new stuff there. There's actually quite a few big updates coming into cast for the base game, and I think they're worth noting here. The turn-ons and the romance dynamics are part of the pack, but in the base game, you can now set a new label. Before, you can make Sims married or engaged, but now you can also set them as partners and create a Sim. They also changed a lot of gendered language in the game to be more neutral, so it's more inclusive. Previously, these things said husband and fiance. In-game, you'd be called someone's girlfriend, but throughout the entire game, they've updated it, so now you'll ask to be partners instead of asked to be boyfriend, and that's something I've wanted for a really long time. The Sims has been making a big effort to make the language in the game more inclusive, so I'm really happy to see that. They've also added a new romantic boundaries tab, and this is how you determine how your Sim experiences jealousy. So your answers to these questions will affect the Sim in-game if they get jealous about their partner flirting or if they get jealous about their partner woohooing. And you can also determine if this can be changed. So by default, everyone in existing saves will feel jealousy about any romance, but they will all also be open to talking about it. So you could have your Sim discuss it with them and then maybe change their boundaries. It's completely up to you. You can determine all of this yourself. And they've also added eyelashes into cast. This is a new makeup category, and there's 2 eyelashes from the pack, and I really hate to say it, but I don't really know if I like these very much. I think they look bad on a lot of the eyes that have existing eyelashes, like this one. So if we picked an eye that didn't have eyelashes, it looks a little bit better. I also think the 2 without bottom lashes are a little bit better, but I think the heavier makeup kind of fits weird on their eyes. I'm really curious to see how CC creators will use this in the future, because it's huge to have this category now, but I was just a little bit disappointed when I first saw them, because I had pretty high hopes when I saw it in the trailer, and I don't know, I'm kind of just unsure how I'm feeling about these. And then probably the biggest surprise and biggest lifesaver is this new button to apply different cast stuff to other categories. So from right here, I can choose to apply these eyelashes to every single other category, and now she'll have them on for all of her outfits. And you can use this for anything. So I could use it for her glasses, I can apply them to just the ones that I want to. Maybe I want to have the same nail polish on all of my outfit categories. I can go and do that straight away in like 2 seconds. This is gonna be such a time save for things that you want to have on all the outfits, because I really tend to use the same makeup for all of my Sims outfits. I like to use the same nail polish. With things like piercings, it's really annoying to go through and add it one by one to each outfit, and now you can just do it all at once with the click of a couple buttons. And again, that's base game, so everybody's gonna have all of those things. This pack also comes with 2 new traits and 2 new aspirations. The first is this love bug trait, and love bug Sims are constantly swept up in the whirlwind of romance. So they're pretty easy to woo and they fall in love pretty easily, compared to kind of the opposite trait, which is romantically reserved. And these Sims will want to have more of a solid friendship foundation before diving into romance. They both come with some new interactions, and romantically reserved Sims especially are kind of fun because you sort of have to discuss your relationship preferences and boundaries before moving on and like making a real romantic relationship. And I kind of relate to that. I'm definitely more like those Sims than the kind of Sim that would just like, you know, get married in a day. The first aspiration is romantic explorer, and this one is kind of just a tutorial for the pack. It has you going on a date, sharing food, getting a romantic partner, embracing 3 times. Like, it's really not that difficult to complete, but if you do finish it, you get the seasoned romantic reward trait, and these Sims have relationships grow faster, and they also have their embarrassment fade faster, so that's kind of useful. And then the other aspiration is paragon partner, and this one's even worse. It's only 1 category, so it's pretty quick to finish. The point of this is to have successful relationships with multiple Sims, and to complete it, you have to discuss romantic boundaries, have 2 or more partners, have them both be satisfied, and go on 3 dates. I mean, you could do this probably in like 2 days in game. But if you finish it, you get the affection aficionado trait, and these Sims have slower romantic satisfaction loss, so it's easier to maintain relationships long term. And this pack has a pretty interesting mix of casts. It's kind of a combo of some bright, trendy, colorful clothing, and then also a whole bunch of wacky costumes. And these costumes are all kind of sexual, like there's an eggplant and a peach and a lot of skin showing. And these are all a part of a gameplay feature where you can have your Sims put on a flirty costume. You can actually ask another Sim to put on a flirty costume for you, or you could ask them to wear a couple's costume. And there's this little costume trunk that you can use to put on your own. The costume trunk is kind of fun because it's got every costume in game, so you don't have to just use it for woohoo activities, but there's a lot of woohoo activity tied to it. This is where that show eggplant thing comes in. All of the different costumes have a different label for woohoo when you woohoo in them. So as a robot, you can oil joints. As an astronaut, you can see stars. As a peach, you can compare peaches. And when you're a hot dog, it's called bun time. So it's kind of silly and it's fun to experiment with a little bit. But back into actual cast for a second, there's 12 new hairstyles for feminine frame sims, and there's 9 new hairstyles for masculine frame sims. There's quite a bit of overlap between the two of them, and obviously there's quite a bit of new clothing. I've never really been a big cast person, so I'm probably the wrong person to come to for like a detailed analysis of Create a Sim, but I like this stuff enough. I wouldn't say it's the kind of pack that you have to run and buy just for the cast alone, but it does serve its purpose. I won't go through every single thing, but hopefully it's helpful to see these items styled on a few different sims. And obviously there is nothing for children in this pack. There's no gameplay, and I wasn't expecting anything in cast. They did get a couple of hairstyles though, because they converted a few of the adult hairstyles for children, so that was a pleasant surprise. I've always been more of a builder, so that's usually what I look forward to the most with new packs. I really hate to say it, but I was actually kind of disappointed by the build stuff with this one. I think the issue is that they just spread themselves a little bit too thin between two different build styles. This happens a lot with Sims packs, but in this case, they're trying to have this more traditional Spanish-inspired style, but also a modern penthouse style, and the two of them just kind of clash, so it's two great concepts that just don't really mesh well together. Like, for example, we get a couch shaped like lips, and then a little old leather chair that don't really have matching colors. So I like a lot of the stuff separately, and I think that I just wish that we had more of it, because if there was more, it would feel more filled out and more easy to do full builds with. It feels really lacking in a couple of areas. Specifically, I think it's a real shame that there isn't a kitchen set. We don't always get kitchen sets in expansion packs, but I always wish that we did. It becomes very apparent to me when I'm doing houses with just the base game and the new pack that it's kind of lacking in that way, because the kitchens look so sad. There are a couple of new backsplashes though that I'll show you in a second, and that does help. I wish we had a bookshelf. I wish we had more curtains. I wish that we had another rug variant. And maybe I'm just being picky because I'm such a builder, but I really wish that we had a little bit more, just a few more items to fill it out more. There are a couple of standout items. The heart bed is one of the longest awaited items in The Sims 4. It was first introduced back in The Sims 1, and it was called the Vibromatic Heart Bed. And it was actually the first time the Sims were ever able to woohoo at all. And in The Sims 4, this bed vibrates. So you can turn vibration on, and it makes the bed vibrate. It also has light controls, so you can set up some LEDs that are behind it. I mean, it is a fancy bed. It costs like 4,500 simoleons, and weirdly, it doesn't even have nice stats. It's like energy 5, but I guess you're probably busy doing other things and not so much sleeping if you're using this bed, right? I think with like the vibration, it's it's very good for woohooing. There's another regular bed in this pack too. It looks like this. I do love the heart bed, but I definitely see myself using this one a little bit more often just because it's slightly more normal. There are some really nice new plants, and a couple of them are really small, so they fit really nicely in clutter spaces, like on bookshelves. There are a ton of new wallpapers. There's actually 13 in total, ranging from things like standard terracotta tiles. We've got some stucco, and then we have some really cool patterned wallpapers like this dark floral print. We even have some animal print patterns. I used a couple of them in this house. We've got this kind of cool art deco style, and we've got this really nice pool tile that has some pretty fun different swatches. And speaking of tile, there's also this backsplash item. So this isn't a wallpaper, it's like a wall decal, but it looks like a tile backsplash, so you could use this in kitchens above the counters. And it comes in a whole bunch of fun patterns and swatches, and it's cheap. It's only 15 simoleons. I actually really like that, and it fits really nicely with the countertops. I've been using that a ton in my builds. I find this wallpaper with the plants to be kind of weird, and it has a matching floor. And also, I hate this. This is like a snake skin. I cannot deal with this one. I used it, but I can't deal with it. You're probably seeing there's a whole bunch of windows and doors in this pack as well. They're all for short wall height, and they're all decently cheap, so they're pretty easy to use, and they come in a nice variety of neutrals, but also some fun bright colors. We don't really have a lot of brightly colored windows, and I'm so glad that there's enough swatches, because I'm not mad when they do brightly colored stuff. I only get mad when there's only brightly colored stuff. But these have black, they have gray, they've got plain white, they even have like a cream color. So these are really versatile. There's also a handful of doors. There's a couple of nice looking exterior doors, and there's also this little door, which kind of looks like a shower door, and that's because it is. They made this so that you could design a custom shower if you wanted to, to, because there's a new shower in this pack that doesn't have any glass around it, kind of like the university one. But then they gave us a door that looks like a shower door, so you could use that to get into your custom showers. I think that's a perfect example of them seeing the Sims community doing stuff like that and then being like, hey, you know what? We can help you. We can make that better. Also, I am so glad that we finally got more pool trims in this pack. One is like a simple terracotta to match the terracotta tiles, but it comes in a lot of neutrals like brown and black and white. And the other one is like a fancy pool tile, and this matches that wallpaper that we got. It comes in some kind of fun colors. The two from this pack are significantly wider than the base game one, which is way more realistic. And I'm from Florida, so I am actually an expert on this. I'm going to use these all the time. I am literally never going to use that base game one again. I think that this looks so cool around the pool. There's not really a lot of standout stuff in debug. Most of the landscaping is stuff that we already have, but there are a couple of new things. There's some decent new trees. This tree is one of the items that you can pay for, but a lot of it is like the little cactus items that we have from Strangerville and stuff like that. I do like this full dumpster that we have in debug. There's also some cool water tanks to put on roofs that we've got. And this is like a circle planter. That's cool for community lots, but for the most part, the debug's kind of just fine. I won't go through every single new build item because this video is already long enough, but there is a ton of stuff and there are a few things that I'm really enjoying. Probably the most exciting item is this new blanket. This is the new Woohoo blanket. There's 3 different variants. One of them is plain, one of them is pattern, and one of them looks like a bear. This makes me genuinely uncomfortable, I'm not gonna lie. I really do not like the bear skin. It does say no animals were harmed in the making of this blanket, but I still can't deal. I do not like it. I love the pattern swatches though. This one kind of looks like a picnic blanket. There's like a cheetah print and a few other brighter colors. There's lips. And then the plain one just has some nice solid colors, so it's kind of easy to mix and match everywhere. They all function the same. They're just different style variants. And on these blankets, you can choose to set up a picnic and get some food. You can just sit on them. You can sit with somebody. You can watch the sky with somebody. But probably most importantly, you can woohoo on these. I'll show you this first because let's be real, it's the reason you're all here. This basically is a woohoo pack. So they kind of just kneel down and then watch this. They're gonna roll it up like a burrito and then start shaking around. It's kind of wild. This has gotta be one of the weirdest things I think they've ever done in this game. It has to be the weirdest woohoo and I'm not mad. I like it. It's kind of scary with it like floating and flying around on the roof, but it is funny. And then it unrolls and they kind of like laugh together after they finish. Sorry, oh my God. How do you talk about this without saying things that sound like innuendos? Anyway, they can also snuggle on here and they can snuggle in bed now as well, which is so cute. Look at them. It's kind of like awkward, but it is fun to have the option. And you don't have to use it romantically, okay? There are picnic options. It just puts a plate of food in front of them and they eat it together, but it is kind of cute. And this is what it looks like if they choose to watch the sky. They kind of like lay there and lean up at the sky together. You can also watch the sky from benches and from picnic tables now, so you don't have to be laying on the floor to do it anymore. The other new woohoo spot is a fake supply closet item. So it looks kind of like this, and your Sims can woohoo in there. This works the same as the closets from Get Together. Oh, we're steamy. So if you've seen that pack, you've probably seen an animation kind of like this before, but they kind of just sneak into the closet and then woohoo in there. The door has quite a few swatches and they're mostly made to match those base game bathroom doors. So if you use those, it kind of looks the same. So it shouldn't be too hard to mix and match with other stuff. And this is what it looks like when it's not tucked into a wall. So it's kind of cool because you can put it in the wall if you want to, or I guess it could be out by itself. I'm obsessed with this. I'm so glad they made this. This is way easier to fit into public spaces than the other closet. Like this actually makes sense to have at the nightclub instead of just a normal closet that you would put in your bedroom. So I'm gonna put this everywhere, like all the time in community lots. Not to be gross, but it's just nice to have the option. And the final woohoo spot is also the most disappointing. They heard us begging for hotels and it kind of feels like they're mocking us because this is a fake hotel. It's a rabbit hole hotel. So you can choose to rent a room for sleep or to rent a room to woohoo with someone. I think it's meant to be a woohoo motel. It kind of looks a little bit dirty and gross. Like you kind of get the vibes here, right? It's not the kind of hotel that you would come to on vacation. This is a woohoo motel. It serves a very specific purpose. And if they go to woohoo in it, they literally just fade away. And then it's kind of cute. Like the windows light up. There's little hearts coming out of it. I like how you have to spend money. There's fireworks. So it is good if you're looking for a place to woohoo, and it is fun, okay? I don't dislike the existence of this. I think it does serve a useful purpose in the game. I just dislike that I want hotels so bad and this is what I get in the meantime. I would love to have real functional hotels in The Sims. That's like my dream pack right now. So I'm glad they didn't make like a half-done hotel in this pack. I would love to have a fully dedicated hotel pack, okay? This one is just a rabbit hole that's kind of similar to the Batu stuff, where you can go and just sleep in there if you're visiting the Star Wars world. It just feels like such a cruel joke to implement these fake ones when they know that this is what so many of us want so bad for real. I think a lot of people are gonna be mad about this. This is gonna be like one of the big controversial things of the Lovestruck pack, so I don't know. It's cool, but like it hurts. Does that make sense? While we're talking about other little bits of gameplay, there are some really fun other random things going on in this pack. We talked earlier about the big major themes, but that's not everything. First of all, I have gotten a bunch of new phone calls with this pack, and they are all so silly. Like, I got this one from a wealthy weirdo, and it was Nancy Landgrab bragging about how rich she was, and then asking me to meet her at the hotel. And if you do it, they might give you a bunch of collectibles, or they might stand you up. You might get invited to participate in a Love Island style dating reality show. And it's kind of like the phone call that gives you 7 days to get married, except you get 7 days to go on 7 gold dates. And if you do it successfully, it's honestly kind of hard, but if you do it, you get 25,000 simoleons. I did it! It finally happened! Oh my god, it took me trying to romance like half the town, and I'm not kidding. I've been recording for over an hour just waiting for this call to show up. You have been selected for the 7 Wild Dates romance-based reality show. If you choose to participate, you'll be tasked with having 7 consecutive perfect dates while hidden cameras record your every move. If you complete all dates perfectly, you'll be awarded with the grand prize. Warning, by signing up for this, you consent to being filmed for the next week. Sign me up! There's also some new calls that you can get from your partner. Like, you might literally get a booty call. My boyfriend called me and he was like, hey, I've got a heart bed and I'm feeling lonely. And then my sim left to go to a rabbit hole to see them. There's another one where they call and say, hey, I'm having a really bad day. And then you can offer to bring them food at work. It's kind of just cute little things like that. I've been talking a lot today about the autonomy of other sims and how they've worked to improve it. But seriously, they have done so much for that. I mentioned how they can affect dates, but there's more. I got proposed to. It gave me a pop-up asking if I wanted to say yes, and then when I did, the sim actually kneeled down and pulled out a ring. I feel like all of the actions from the romance skill should build the romance skill faster. Whoa! Barry wants to propose? Okay. Oh, he actually proposed! Oh my god, there was an animation! I haven't seen that! That just made me so happy. It sounds silly, but like somebody else having an animation to propose to me was so cool. That's like dream stuff for me with The Sims. I was so excited about that. If you break your partner's boundaries twice, they will break up with you. And you've never been able to be dumped by someone else before, so them dumping you is huge. This is the kind of stuff that just makes a huge difference to me with how lively The Sims feels. And I'm so glad they're working on it more because I have been so desperate for other Sims to have more autonomy. I hate being the one having to control every little thing, and I always am wishing the game would have things happening to me more often. There is a balance to that, and I know that some people don't want these things to happen and they want to micromanage everything, but I am always leaning more on the side of chaos, and I feel like this pack is giving me more of that. As far as other stuff goes, I don't really even know how to explain this, but there is a sad bear, and he wanders around, and if you talk to him, he might send you on a quest to find this missing magic ring. I know it sounds ridiculous. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's really fun to do. Much like Stanley Humphrey, he is a bear, and he will tell you that. Please don't insult him. He is a bear. There's also a new axolotl collection that works kind of like frogs, so you can find them and then breed them to get all of the color variants. They're really cute, and the game actually won't let you sell them because they're endangered. If you try to sell them, it asks you to release them to a habitat instead. As a rags to riches player, this does hurt a little bit, but as a person in real life who really values conservation and the environment and also really understands the importance of axolotls and worries about them being endangered, this is pretty cool. There is also a 10-level career in this pack. I know we haven't gotten one of those in a long time. It's called Romance Consultant, and it's kind of a combo between a matchmaker and a relationship counselor. Those are actually the 2 different branches that you can level up into. It's just a normal, everyday rabbit hole career, but you can work from home if you want to. I have been begging for more normal careers like this. It's fun to have active stuff, but sometimes you just want to give your sim a job, put a label on their career, and send them off to work during the day. Sometimes I want them gone so I can focus on other things. So I'm really glad they made just a normal career like like this. You'll need the new romance skill for this and also the charisma and logic skills. It's really not that difficult to advance in and it's pretty fun to play through. The Sims in this career also get some pretty funny special interactions unlocked as they level up. You can do things like give unsolicited love advice, and you can also encourage sex education. And I was really surprised to see the word sex in the game instead of woohoo, but I think sex education is really important, so I feel like that's a good thing. I'm not mad about them including it. I mentioned earlier how I felt like this pack was the most adult that they've made. It's not really outright adult, but there are some funny innuendos and jokes that adults might appreciate. There's this new flirty dance that they can do, and I don't even know the word. It's like kind of cringe, slightly sexual. It's kind of weird, but it's pretty funny, especially if they're in costume. There's also Cupid's counseling, so like you can be a relationship counselor, you can go to relationship counseling. It costs 1,000 simoleons a week, but if you do it, it gives you some pop-ups to like talk to the person about things. It's kind of weird, but it's a way to change your relationship dynamic. So if things are kind of going bad, you can be like, hey, I'm worried about this, and then you can talk it out in counseling and then hopefully improve it. You can work on things like attraction and dynamics and satisfaction levels all in the counseling. My Sims were strained originally, and I was able to use this to change it to be wholesome, but also it backfired on me once and I had a wholesome dynamic that became unpredictable. So I don't know, enter at your own risk. And I have saved the very best for last because this pack has not one, but two new deaths. They're both tied to a new heartbreak feature. The first is just death by heartbreak, and the second one is death by choking on the chocolates that you're eating to try and cure your heartbreak. So it is kind of hard to get these two to show up. Heartbreak will happen to Sims that have recently experienced a string of negative romantic events. So this could be things like breakups, jealousy, bad dates, even a string of failed romance interactions. You'll first get a pop-up being like, oh, they're having kind of a hard time. Looks like something's coming, which is a little bit scary. And then if you keep going and having a worse time, you'll get a second pop-up that's really scary. And that one warns you like, hey, listen, if things don't improve, it might turn out really bad for you. And once you get that second pop-up, that's where the deaths come into play. So if you want to have a Sim die by choking, you're going to want to get into that heartbreak mood and then have them use their phone to order some chocolates. And then there's like an eat sadly interaction. If you eat it a bunch of times, there's a chance they might die. I had to have my Sim eat like 10 chocolates for it to work, but there's a chance that you could get lucky and have it happen on the first try, or I guess unlucky, depending on how you're looking at it. It makes you feel a bit guilty because they were just sad trying to like eat their sorrows away and then they died. And then the other death is death by heartbreak, and that has a similar start where you have to get into the brokenhearted emotion, but then they'll die if they keep having things go wrong. So when I tried to do this, I had my Sim go on a bunch of failed dates. I probably had like 8 failed dates. I made her turned off by everyone and everything, so every romance interaction she tried went badly. And then after I got into the heartbreak emotion, I went on one more failed date and then she died. So I don't think you would do this by accident very easily, but it is possible, especially if like your Sim gets cheated on and then they get dumped and like a bunch of bad things happen all at once. But I think they're appropriately difficult to achieve because probably most players don't want this to happen by accident. I might, but I understand that most people don't play as chaotically as I do. So it's probably good that it's a little bit rare. And as a connoisseur of death in The Sims, I can safely say that these two are both really fun. Is it okay to say that about death? It's The Sims, it's fine. I also wasn't expecting 2 deaths, so that was a pleasant surprise. Thank you, Sims team. I am your target audience for this, and I am eating it up. Okay, I think with that, we have officially covered everything in this new pack. There's bound to be some stuff that I missed, but I did my best to show you all of the new things that are coming in Lovestruck. My goal is to give you all of the tools you need to decide if this is worth buying for you. And now I want to talk a little bit more about my feelings on it and give you my final thoughts. I think Growing Together is a really good comparison for this pack because both of them are so heavily focused on relationships. One's just about family and this one's about romance. I think they also have a very similar amount of content, but maybe Growing Together felt bigger at the time because infants were still shiny and new. Infants are base game though, so if you take the newness out of the equation, I think that these two are pretty comparable. So if you have Growing Together and you enjoy it, then you'll probably like this pack. And conversely, if you don't like Growing Together, you probably won't enjoy this one. I can see how a lot of people might feel like this pack doesn't have enough content in it. I don't know if I personally feel that way. I mean, I played it for like 40 hours and I'm not exaggerating, but I'm also obsessed with this stupid game, so it's easy for me to entertain myself with it. For the most part, I'm gonna like a lot of things The Sims makes because I'm like a Sims super fan. So I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of everybody else that maybe isn't as deep into this as I am, and maybe most of the new systems being kind of behind the scenes because they're all about relationship details makes it feel not as big as something like horses, which are literally big. And I think that, oh, it shouldn't be an expansion pack argument tends to pop up with every pack. And I don't know if that necessarily has to do with the amount of content in the packs, because I think this is very similar to other expansion packs. I think it has more to do with the price, because $40 is really expensive, and it's hard to swallow that for another add-on to an already very expensive game. They've also been raising prices in a lot of places, so this is the kind of thing that maybe it wouldn't hurt to wait for it to go on sale. I like it a lot, but I'll also like it 6 months from now when it's a little bit discounted. So I never really know how to answer that is it worth the money question, because it's so individual. Some people have the money and they will buy every pack the second it comes out, but not everybody has that luxury. And it's hard because I think this pack is worth being an expansion pack, but there's a whole other argument about whether or not expansion should be worth $40, right? I do have this scale that I sort of jokingly use to determine whether or not a pack is good, and I always say that the best ones have new woohoo spots and new deaths. And this one has 3 new woohoo spots and 2 new deaths, so it's scoring pretty high. That's obviously not the real deciding factor. For me, the real deciding stuff about new packs being worth it has more to do with replayability. I really like packs that fit super easily into my average everyday gameplay. My favorite pack of all time is Seasons, because I feel like Seasons changes literally everything about The Sims 4. And that one doesn't even have a new world, but it makes it feel like every single world is new because of the weather and the holidays. I really appreciate how it affects every aspect of the game and every single one of my Sims' lives. And I said a lot of really positive things about growing together too for a similar reason, because pretty much all of my Sims end up having kids, so I end up using a lot of those family things for all of my households. And I think that kind of applies to Lovestruck too, because pretty much all of my Sims end up having romantic relationships, so I know I'm gonna use this in pretty much every single save. I mean, like the date thing I'm gonna use for everybody from now on. I'm never gonna do a base game date again. I don't care about those anymore. The online dating, oh my god, I'm never gonna have to make a fake club just to meet people again. I've been using Get-Together's club system to pretend that I'm online dating for years, so finally having real online dating is huge. And I don't use things like horses or fame or spellcasters every day, but I do pretty much always have my Sims date and eventually get married. So this is gonna tie in really easily to my usual gameplay, and I think that's where Sims packs really shine. When they work on expanding something that's already existing that I'm already interested in and just making it better and more detailed, I think that's best case scenario. This is definitely a pack for gameplay people. If you're primarily a builder, I wouldn't recommend this as your first pack. There's probably other ones that would be better suited for you if you're gonna get just one. And honestly, if you're primarily interested in casts, I probably wouldn't get this one either. Like half of the cast is costumes, and I don't know how useful that will be to you. It's good for your Sims to play dress up, but maybe not so good if you're the one who likes to use the Sims to play dress up. And I hesitate to say this because you never know what could happen between now and release, but I didn't encounter any bugs. And that's big because recently a lot of the packs that have been coming out have been super broken. I mean, For Rent is still super broken and it came out months ago. I wouldn't call Lovestruck broken. I didn't really experience things that felt like a broken pack to me. I think it works as intended, at least it did for me during this early access period. But again, anything could happen. I only played it for 2 weeks before it came out, but for now it seems okay. And again, that could change, hopefully not, but I don't know what's gonna happen when it comes out. The biggest disappointments for me were in build mode and with the world, just because I wanted apartments so bad. And I will admit the gameplay is a little bit odd, just because it's a bunch of small features that add up all together to a massive romance overhaul. But in the end, I had a great time with this pack, and I think it adds a lot of valuable gameplay that many of you will enjoy. It's hard for me to rank right now because it's still so new and I've only played just the base game with it, so I don't really know where exactly it falls on my tier list of expansion packs. But I think I'd probably put it somewhere in the middle of all the packs, maybe a little bit closer to the top. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but it's pretty solid. I can't really make a blanket recommendation because this kind of stuff is so individual, but hopefully from what I've said here, you're able to decide for yourself if you think it's worth buying. Thank you for listening to me ramble, because I know it's been a long one. I hope it was at least somewhat helpful to you, and make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel because I have a ton of content on this pack coming this week, and I'm actually going to be live on my Twitch channel tonight playing with Lovestruck, so we can really deep dive and answer some more questions over there, and I'll link that down below. I'm also going to link our charity fundraiser down below and also some more information on Simmers for Palestine in case you'd like to get involved. This is like a general call out to any and all creators. Even if you're not a Simmer, please don't feel afraid to get involved with us. It's an open invitation to everybody. The idea is just to get as many people as possible talking about it and fundraising together next weekend. Also, if you're planning on buying this pack or any Sims pack, a lot of creators have creator codes with EA. So for example, if you use code lilsimsie at checkout, I will still earn a 5% commission on your purchase. And with a full priced expansion pack, that's $2 per expansion that EA will pay to me just because you bought it with my code. It's not a discount code, unfortunately, so you won't get any money off, but EA does earn less money and they give it to a creator instead. So you don't have to use my code, but I would really encourage you to use at least somebody's code if you're planning on buying the pack. It's free and it's a great way to help support creators financially. But with that, I am going to go. So thank you for watching. Have the best rest of your day, and I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. Just to let you know, my script, 18 pages long, took me 3 days to write it. So hopefully this was helpful to you. I did my best.